Ne baja la casa ella.
Behemoth.
Hello, Behemoth fans. This is Manuel once again with a new episode of the podcast for all of you. We're almost halfway through PAX Online. The first weekend of the demo was already live, and thousands of players enjoyed Alien Hominid Invasion for the first time from their own homes. Thank you everybody for participating, and if you haven't done it yet, don't worry, the demo will be back this weekend, starting on Friday, September 18 and ending at the end of the day on the 19th. This is all Pacific time. Today, we are sharing some thoughts with Lucia, with almost a decade of experience in making sure the games make it to the public with as few bugs as possible. She has been making sure the latest Behemoth games and their patches run as smooth as possible in all the different platforms they are available. Hey Lucia, how are you today? Today's what? It's like the 5th day of PAX. How are you feeling today? How are things?
Good, I'm good. Yes, I think it is the 5th day of PAX. We're doing good. Just getting through everybody's support, seeing how everybody likes the game.
I know, right? It has been exciting. The last time we talked with Erin on the first episode of the podcast, and we were super excited to see what people's reaction would be to the game. And now we know. How do you feel about that? Finally, after tons of people, actually thousands of people, play the game.
I'm feeling pretty good. Really excited about the feedback. It's good to hear what people like in the game compared to the old Alien Hominid, and just seeing like what their favorite parts were or what their favorite gun, their mutation. It's really nice to hear back.
We're all super excited about that. So before we jump into other things, when we were doing the first podcast with Erin, she just dropped the bomb that she has been in the Behemoth for 10 years. So I guess that's kind of becoming a thing for us now from now on. So how long have you been at the Behemoth?
That is a good question. I believe I have been here for 5 years, actually.
Wow, yeah. That's a long time. So why don't you tell us a little bit more about you? How long have you been doing QA? Is the Behemoth the first company you're doing QA with? Or how long have you been working in the video game industry?
Oh, that's another good question. So Behemoth is not actually the first company I've been working with. The previous QA job I had was at Sony. I believe it was back in 2012. Yes. So it's actually been
8 years ago.
Yeah, it's been quite a long time because I was there for quite a bit. These are actually the only two QA jobs that I've actually had, being Behemoth probably one of my favorite ones.
Maybe for those that don't know, I think we've said QA a couple times, so this means quality assurance, right? If we wanted to bring this to an example of maybe what are your responsibilities as QA or quality assurance team at the Behemoth.
Being QA, we go through and we make sure there aren't any like horrible bugs in the game or anything that's game breaking that would ruin the user's experience. So basically what we do, we write up reports and we give them to the devs, and then we go back and we check through them. And it's a very rewarding job actually, because we get to see some of the little errors getting fixed and then going out to people live, like the demo right now. We get to see stuff that maybe we couldn't find, or just how people play the game differently, and that helps us with testing.
When I was in college, like every time my classmates asked me to be the one to make the last revision before sending the final version of the final or whatever, I was always freaking out because you were the last layer of protection before your grade, basically. How do you make sure everything is in the right place? Like, I assume there's like a lot of checklists and a lot of communication, conversations, things like what would be like a couple of the key items to make sure no one is freaking out throughout the process?
Definitely communication. Making sure that every department knows what's going on is super helpful, and we make sure that nothing falls through the cracks. We also do have, like you said, checklists. We have test cases that we make sure we run through just before we go to submit, and that's always super helpful.
When I've had a lot of people ask me in floor before, just even for me, I work in marketing, and a lot of people, when I told them that I work at the video game company, they just assume I just play games all the time. And for QA, you guys are playing, right? But there is a lot of heavy testing involved. So how do you go through this process of it's not just playing, right? You have to test and try to purposely break things to make sure no one will go through that experience later.
We usually like to do something that the user wasn't normally do or play differently, because I believe there's like two different types of testing. There's ones where you just go out on your own and you go straight forward and you just try to pick apart the game and see if you can break it. And then there's the other one where you follow the testing, just a set of test cases that you do. And some are good. It's also good to take a little break in between so you can come back with newer eyes, and that's always super helpful. A good thing to help with that too is to have a really good team, because you guys work with each other and it helps a lot.
I would say especially for games like us, right? All of our games have co-op, so you at least need one person to help you go through all the stages and all the different things to make sure when two people are playing, there are no bad things happening.
Yeah, that's true. It's always good to have like a buddy. And it's also good to help break up testing as well. So say if you're playing single player and you're feeling like you need a little break, it's always good to hop on to multiplayer with somebody else, and then you might see something that you didn't see before, and I think that's great.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's very necessary, and especially because you really like the team you work with, right?
Oh, yeah.
Maybe a shout out here.
100%. My team is really good.
That's good. I'm pretty sure some of them would like to hear that because they will probably be listening to this part. So I guess going into a little bit back on your life, I guess, is how do you get into working in the video games, and why is starting in QA, or why getting QA?
For college, I actually got an animation and media bachelor's degree. So I believe it's the job coordinator told me that Sony was hiring at the time, and I was like, oh, okay. And I guess for them, they didn't have a lot of female testers, so I was like, okay, I'll give it a try. And I got hired, and I just really loved the process. I liked going through the bugs, and then I didn't do a lot of conventions at the time, but when I moved to Behemoth, that was something that made my job even more satisfying, was talking to everybody and seeing how they liked the game. That's how I got into it. I was going to branch off eventually, but I really, once I moved to the Behemoth and I got to meet everybody and see how they worked, it was really great, and I wanted to start helping out more with it as well, with the QA process and getting everything set up. I just find it overall just satisfying.
It goes very well with everything you said before. It's like just making sure everything is on the right place. So I guess it's all about being, organized, right? Because you want, you just want your process to be clean, and then you want the game to be as clean as possible when it goes out. So if you feel that is a satisfying experience, I guess being in QA helps you to get that sensation a lot of the times, right?
Oh, definitely.
What kind of advice would you give for those that are interested in maybe having a career in QA later on? And, maybe this is a very basic question, but do you need some sort of certificate? Do you need to study something? Do you need to go through, something to make sure you're like a validated or certified QA tester, or you can just go and try and get hired and start from there?
I do know, at least in my experience, that you do need to at least have a bachelor's degree. I also do recommend busting out them grammar skills, because even though we play a lot of games, we do a lot of writing, which is kind of crazy. We do a lot of reports, and it's just good when you are able to communicate what you want to one of the dev teams who's not able to reproduce or who's trying to reproduce your bug. So I think that's a great skill to have. Probably one of the other things is communication, just being friendly and making sure you communicate everything that happens with your team it makes the process so much better. If you're trying to get in, I would just make sure you analyze everything and you don't mind, you're comfortable continuing to play a game, it doesn't bother you, you're good to go for 8 hours a day, because a lot of people think that we just sit here and just play games all day, but it's a little bit more than that. Yeah, the stamina is good.
It's funny because when we sit close in the office, and this is something I tell my wife all the time, is that one of the things that I miss from being at the office is the sound of our games over and over, because QA is testing, and it's just the menu song for hours, and you guys are there just nothing, and of course I'm enjoying the songs. The songs are great, but after 5 hours I'm like, can you guys change the menu? And you're like, no, we're testing. we're doing stuff. So
no, totally.
So yeah, there's definitely that factor in there that you need to get used to this, and kind of, you have to love it, because otherwise it might be a difficult process. You know, this is something that I get asked a lot as well, is for people that is before even thinking on working, or they're a couple years away from working. What do you think would be a good, you know, set of skills to develop? For example, I've had a lot of people ask that they want to work in the social media aspect of video games, like being community manager, and they ask me what can they do before they go to college to just kind of get things rolling, right? And one of the first thing I said is just create a Facebook group, or create a group or a website, something where you can start working on those skills before you move into college or before you're studying even more. So, you know, as soon as you start doing something, then hopefully you will get noticed easily by your peers later on. So you already said communication. You already said, you know, trying to go through games and test your stamina. But what do you think would be a good thing for these guys that are looking for later to go in, to start kind of practicing now, or making themselves like stand out basically from the rest of the people that want to work here?
I would probably suggest maybe like joining like a game forum and getting really in with the community, and maybe just seeing what bugs are out there, maybe testing a little bit on your own and seeing if you can break the game. Because it's always helpful when we do get the people who send us like a support ticket and they're like, hey, I don't know if you guys know about this bug, but I found it, and it's super helpful, especially if not a lot of people have gotten it, and it always looks really nice.
Yeah, that makes sense, especially if you go with this little bit of a report, right? Because one thing is to send a screenshot and say, hey, I broke the game, and the other is, hey guys, I did this and that and broke the game, and I was able to redo it 10 times. You know, that's impressive. Breaking the game, it can happen to any of us. Like, I've played multiple games where you're just playing regularly and the game breaks, you know, it just happens. But if you're able to identify what is causing it and then redo it 10 times and it's happening, that's something that is kind of worth reporting in a nice way. And I guess, as you're saying, can get you to stand out, and people will say, okay, this guy, you know, maybe if he applies in a couple of years from now, we can do something.
Oh, totally.
Sounds great. Well, thank you very much, Lucia. Do you have anything else that you want to say to anybody out there that has been playing Invasion, that is ready to play Invasion this next weekend, or, you know, that has visited us on the Behemoth virtual booth?
I just want to thank you guys so much. Like, all of your help, like, just coming in with your feedback and just playing the game and interacting with us on the Discord. It's so awesome.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Lucia, and hope you have a great rest of PAX. And for us, we're going to have more content for you, so stay tuned to our channels. And once again, thank you very much for listening. Have a great day. Thank you everybody for listening all the way to the end of the podcast. We really hope you are enjoying this digital edition of how we enjoy trade shows, sharing with you our experiences with what we love the most, video games. Don't forget to wishlist Alien Hominid Invasion on Steam and to follow us on Twitter @The Behemoth, so you don't miss any of our future pieces of content and updates about our games. Thank you very much and have a great day.